I know that every single human being on earth tosses and turns all night thinking about the symbolic relationship between Diddy's house parties and Pleasure Island from the 1940 Disney children's cartoon Pinocchio. Okay, maybe that's just me. But seriously, since the explosive lawsuit by Lil Rod that triggered two highly coordinated raids by the authorities on P. Diddy's properties both in LA and Miami, the superstar rapper's seemingly perfect life seems to be falling apart. But an interesting aspect of the case is reports of what goes on inside Diddy's house parties. Since the 90s, Diddy has been famous for hosting some of the best and most exclusive parties where A-list celebrities like famous athletes, political figures, artists, musicians, and international dignitaries all gather to have a good time. Unfortunately, there have been rumors of these parties being a hedonistic paradise where select attendees indulge in their most animalistic desires, which usually include sex, drugs, and so much more. In the lawsuit filed against Mr. Sean Epstein Combs, aka Diddy, Lil Rod described the rap mogul's parties as a place where depravities of all kinds ran rampant, with allegations of straight and homosexual orgies, employees carrying small bags filled with cocaine, ecstasy, marijuana, and a pink cocaine concoction called Tussie, as well as abundance of food, alcohol, lots of strippers, and sex workers. Diddy was really living that Miami lifestyle. But as Cat Williams said, when Diddy asks you to party,
you gotta tell him no.
So what is the relationship between Pleasure Island in the Pinocchio story and Diddy's Wild House parties, you may ask? Well, I would have to give a short summary of Pinocchio, his experiences on Pleasure Island, and the diabolical Coachman. When it comes to the story of Pinocchio, the only part a lot of people usually remember is the wooden puppet's nose starting to grow longer as he was lying to his fairy godmother. But the story is crazier and deeper than just that. One very interesting aspect of the tale is Pinocchio's adventure in Pleasure Island. In the story, Pleasure Island is an amusement park located on an island where it is only accessed by ferry. According to the Coachman, he specializes to serve stupid little boys who are disobedient and refuse to go to school. It is implied to be illegal and extremely notorious, as hinted by Honest John's reaction. Honest John is the talking fox in the story. The Coachman runs the island and takes all the disobedient boys he has collected from various towns and villages to the island. There, the boys are free to do whatever they please, such as smoking, drinking, alcohol, fighting, wrecking the place, and other deeds that good children wouldn't usually do. Food, alcohol, and tobacco are freely available on the island. The boys are also free from the law, as there are no parents and policemen to stop them from being naughty. Essentially, the island is designed to be the perfect paradise for bad boys. However, unbeknownst to the boys, Pleasure Island actually serves as a horrible trap. Once the boys have spent enough time being bad, they begin to succumb to a horrible curse that exists over the island, which turns them into donkeys due to making complete jackasses of themselves and behaving like destructive animals. The boys first grow donkey ears, then a tail, their heads turn furry, their laughing becomes braying, their hands and feet become hooves, they are forced onto all fours, and finally they lose their voices permanently and are replaced by donkey brays. The donkeys are then rounded up by the Coachman and his minions and inspected by the Coachman to see if they have lost their voices. He asks each donkey for their names. If the donkey responds with a bray, he strips them naked and throws them into crates. They are then taken back to the mainland via ferry and are finally sold by the Coachman into hard labor at the salt mines, circuses, and possibly other places for money. If the donkey responds with his name, meaning that they can still talk, they are not shipped to the others and are presumably kept by the Coachman until they too completely lose their voices, or are possibly disposed of to prevent them from warning other victims from coming to the island. The exact way the curse is placed over the island or how the boys are turned into donkeys is unknown, though it appears that it only takes effect once the boys have committed enough bad behavior. There appears to be no way to stop it once the transformation begins, so it appears to be permanent, as even remorse for their actions doesn't seem to reverse the effects. It appears to work slower for some individuals, as both the boy who was with Pinocchio, called Lampwick, and Pinocchio himself showed no effects of the curse until long after the other boys possibly due to the fact that they relaxed for a while playing pool. It also remains unknown how some of the boys are able to retain their voices while others aren't able to, though it possibly depends on the severity of their misdeeds. Now to Diddy's house parties. Diddy's house parties were infamous for being elaborate, exclusive, and high profile, where only elites of Hollywood, entertainment industry executives, athletes, musicians, and international dignitaries were invited to come and have a good time. On the surface, they look like harmless fun, but going by the tale from many sources, including the lawsuit from Leo Rod and Cassie, these parties were anything but innocent fun. According to Howard Stern, a famous radio host in the US, the parties are kind of divided into two parts, where the less famous people are stuck outside while the more high-profile guests are allowed into the mansions. Even on the inside, everything usually looks normal on the surface, but a few guests are enticed to participate in different activities that are more curious, to say the least. An American Christian rapper named Lecrae revealed that he had gone to a couple of these parties and said, "There are people who will test you to see how far your limits are. If you are willing to take a step, they will take two," he said. "It's never a situation of where I felt forced to participate, but rather I was asked to join in." At one party, Lecrae said an unnamed artist warned him about staying past a certain hour, hinting at activities that his Christian conscience might find objectionable. True to the warning, the party's atmosphere shifted significantly as time went on. He went on to say, "There was a couch, and on the couch I saw a couple of people really getting hard and heavy," he recalled. "I'm thinking, well, it's a celebrity party. People do what they do. As I started to move upstairs, I passed them up and I noticed that it wasn't just two guys. It was more and more people just going at it. I was like, okay, it's time for me to roll, and I'm going to get up out of here. I did not know this is how it went down." According to court documents filed by Leo Rod against P. Diddy, he alleged that the rapper's parties were filled with sex workers, minors, illegal drugs such as ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, mushrooms, as well as a lot of food and alcohol. In the lawsuit, he claimed that P. Diddy purportedly installed multiple hidden cameras in his properties, both in LA and on Star Island in Miami. The filing read, "While living and traveling with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones revealed that Mr. Combs had hidden cameras in every room in his homes." The filing continued, "Mr. Combs has recording of several celebrities, artists, music label executives, and athletes engaging in illegal activity. These individuals were recorded without their knowledge and consent." Those cameras supposedly captured alleged disturbing footages of many of his guests. Mr. Jones claimed in the lawsuit that these parties were sponsored by major players in the recording industry, giving them access to sex, drugs, and underage girls. The civil complaint asserted, "Mr. Combs possesses compromising footage of every person who has attended his freak-off parties and his house parties." As far as he knew, the parties were a business model that gave upcoming artists a chance to climb up the ladder by giving them access to music executives. Leroy also claimed that Diddy would make attendees of his parties sign non-disclosure agreements. If you have gotten to this part of the video, I'm sure you are beginning to notice some symbolic connection between Pleasure Island and Diddy's parties. First of all, I'm going to start with the difference. So for one, the most obvious difference between Pleasure Island in Pinocchio story and P. Diddy's parties is that one is fictional while the other one is real. Another obvious difference is that one is for kids while the other is for adults, although there have been reports and video evidence of kids being at these parties. The second symbolic connection is the way they were enticed to these parties. Although Pleasure Island seemed to be quite notorious to the people in the cartoon, especially seen through the reaction of Honest John, who was the talking fox, the coachman usually would go out of his way to try and entice young boys to come and enjoy themselves on the island. It gave them the impression that they were free from authorities and they could indulge in all vices available on the island without fear of repercussion. During the first minutes and hours of entering the island, the coachman is seen encouraging the young boys to indulge in as much vice and mischief as possible. Diddy, on the other hand, has been seen on several occasions trying to entice people to come to his parties and getting upset when they show no interest. There's a video of Diddy aggressively questioning why New York rapper Fabulous would refuse to come and party with him.
Did you miss me though? For real? Because it seems like a thing.
I
It's
miss
his
partying
birthday
with
party,
Puff, man.
But I'm talking about for your birthday.
Huh?
Why won't you party with me for your birthday, man?
We partied for my birthday before. You came to my party.
No, but me and you ain't never really party. You know what I'm saying?
In the video, you can see how uncomfortable Fabulous looks as Diddy keeps pressuring him to come to his parties. The Christian rapper Lecrae said he was enticed to participate in more curious activities as the night progressed and decided to decline for reasons best known to him. 50 Cent, Cat Williams, and many others have joked about what goes on at Diddy's parties. Diddy also gave his guests the impression that they were free from authorities and could indulge in all kinds of vices available at his parties without fear of repercussion, just the same way the Coachman did on Pleasure Island in the story of Pinocchio. Number 3. Activities that went on inside the parties. Although not shown in the cartoon, many people speculate that not all the kids that go to Pleasure Island transform into donkeys. This is because the island seems to have attractions that may be seen as normal, while also having some other attractions that are pushed towards bad boys and girls. These activities include drinking, smoking, gluttony, fighting, and vandalism. Just like Pleasure Island, PDD's parties seem to have different levels of attractions. On the outside, there is the normal music, dance, food, connections, and alcohol. But beneath the surface and away from the eye of regular people, there is a party inside the party filled with illegal drugs, sex workers, sex trafficking, orgies, homosexual activities, and underage girls. Number 4. Transformation from human to donkey. On Pleasure Island, the boys that indulged in as many vices as possible were ultimately transformed into donkeys. Those who didn't overindulge did not fully transform or transformed into donkeys at much slower speed. This may explain why Pinocchio did not fully transform, although the process had already started before he was able to escape the island with his conscience, Jiminy Cricket. His friend on the island called Lampwick was not so lucky as he transformed into a jackass despite his passionate pleas for Pinocchio to help him. In Italy, where the story was originally written, the donkey is a symbol of stupidity and foolishness. The symbolic transformation from man to donkey in Diddy's parties usually happen as guests indulge in more bestial orgies to a level where they become fully animalistic through their participation in group sex, normal sex, drugs, and other illegal activities. Just like on Pleasure Island, some individuals only engaged in a few immoral activities, while some others jumped face front into all kinds of curious and reprehensible activities. Getting caught and caged. On Pleasure Island, when the transformation from kids to donkeys are complete, they are caught and caged by the coachman, then taken to the mainland to be sold to the salt mines, circuses, and other places that may need and require donkeys. And all this is happening without the consideration for the pain, suffering, and eventual death that may come to many of these boys that have now become donkeys. In this case, the process of being trapped and caged is when he's able to secretly film, record, and use incriminating evidence to coerce victims into doing what he wants them to do against their will. The victims feel like they are in a cage as they have been caught doing illegal and immoral activities that may damage their reputation, risk their freedom, and destroy their lives. At this point, PDD has them by the balls, and they are most likely to do whatever the rap mogul wishes them to do, dealing with the ones that still have a voice. In the scene where the coachman was catching and caging the boys who had been transformed to donkeys, he always asked them to speak. If they made a braying sound like a donkey, they were quickly stripped and thrown into crates. In the same scene, he asked the little donkey to say his name. The little donkey now replies saying, "My name is Alexander." The coach then replies, "So you can talk." He then throws the boy into a cage with other boys who could still talk. They then start begging and telling him that they want to go home to their mothers. The coachman uses a whip to make a loud sound and tells them that they have had their fun. Now it's time for them to pay up. In the story of Pinocchio, it is not said what became of the donkeys that could speak, but it is often speculated that they were presumably kept by the coachman until they completely lost their voice or possibly disposed of to prevent them from warning other victims from coming to the island. In the case of PDD, the victims that still had not completely given up or were still a bit stubborn, symbolizing that they still had a voice, allegedly had their lives destroyed or gotten ridden off, like in the case of his ex-girlfriend, Kim Potter, who was rumored to be writing a tell-all book just before her death. Another case was his former boss, Andre Harrell, who died before he could release a biography about his life, which could have contained stories of his time at Uptown Records and his history with Diddy.
Uptown Records started with 5 people: Andre Harrell, I'll Be Sure, Heavy D, and Puffy. And Kim was the longest working employee because she was there from the very beginning. She was Andre's personal assistant. Kim is dead. Heavy D is dead. Andre Harrell is dead. The only 2 left are Puffy and Al almost died. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Heavy D was found dead, face down in the heart attack. Andre Harrell, heart attack. Kim died from pneumonia, but there's the first coroner's report that said that she died. It was ruled a homicide, and they found toxins in her body to prove that she had been poisoned. You know, they have poisons that create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms. And then right after that, Al had a meeting, and I was going to meet up with him because we were in Vegas. And then the next thing you know, you want to know what they all had in common, though? The survivors and the late of Uptown Records, they were all writing tell-all books. Andre was writing a book right before he died. Heavy D was working on a book before he died. Kim Porter was working on a book before she died. And Al B. Sure was working on the documentary of his life. And then he goes into a coma. Has Puffy ever been in a coma? Has anything happened to him? He must be the luckiest motherfucker, because it seems like everybody that worked at Uptown Records from the very beginning is gone.
And there are so many other stories like this. All these are allegedly. Number 7, the Coachman and PDD. Both the Coachman and Diddy are major predators because they prey on the desire and gullibility of individuals who want to indulge in their more animalistic side. The Coachman was able to entice and trap bad little kids through their tendency for gluttony, violence, curiosity, and foolishness. Diddy, on the other hand, was able to entice and trap his guests through their feelings of lust, addiction, gluttony, curiosity, and foolishness. The Coachman used ancient black magic, while Diddy used modern technology. But at their core, they seem to be very similar in their mindset, as both secretly went out of their way to entice stupid boys and men so that they could manipulate and exploit them when they had been fully transformed into brain donkeys through their desire to indulge in their more animalistic side. The Coachman transformed the boys into donkey so as to sell them to the salt mines, circus, and other places, while PDD used his video evidence to blackmail and exploit his victims by using them when he needed to, or symbolically selling them to the circus, which we will call the music industry, or plain old sex trafficking, among other serious crimes. Allegedly, please. While the Coachman seems to be a human trafficker through his activities of selling young boys turned donkeys, Diddy has been accused in several lawsuits to being a sex trafficker and an exploitative blackmailer. Unfortunately, at this point, Diddy may have a target on his back, as many of the powerful victims he may have trapped will want to get rid of him to prevent their secrets from coming out to the public. This theory, among other reasons, may explain why Diddy has so much power in the music industry as in the 23 years of throwing these parties, he would have recorded video evidence of so many powerful people in compromising positions. Now to the moral of the story and my own short analysis. The moral of this video is that if and when Diddy asks you to come and party with him,
You gotta tell him no.
although I think his partying days are over, only time will tell. But seriously, the true moral of the story of Pinocchio and the dilemma of those unfortunate to be caught in Diddy's trap is the consequence of not having self-discipline, too much curiosity, and overindulgence in hedonism. Another lesson from the video is that when something sounds too good to be true, it possibly is. The 1940 Pinocchio cartoon that inspired this particular video will always be one of Walt Disney's greatest works. When I watched the cartoon as a child, the only part I could remember was where his nose grew longer as he was lying. But as I became older and came across the story again, I now understand its more symbolic meanings and its deeper messages. If you liked or disliked what you heard or saw, please drop a comment and like the video. Also, please subscribe to the channel for more content related to the psychology of pop culture. My name is Kola, and I will see you on my next videos. Bye for now.